Hello, hello. This is Matthias. And last time we really dove deep into integral theory and what it means to live an integral life and holistic life and to have maps that don't bring us to the swamp, but actually navigate us to the sea and to where we're actually going, where we're heading in this life. So this is such an important topic. And today I want to touch upon the second part, which is the levels of consciousness, which is a part of the integral theory, right? It's the all levels. And this is really about how we as human beings evolve. So the question might come up for you, like, where am I in my evolutionary journey? And what does this situation really want from me? What is the best way to deal with the situation that I am in right now? How do I navigate the complexities in this world right now? Why do we see different nations like argumenting from one side and the other nation argumenting from a different side, and they never really shake hands, but they argument in such different ways, and so they can never collaborate. So this will be a super insightful video. I'm so excited about this topic because it has really shaped my life, and it has really opened myself up to I can grow so much in this life. I'm perfect as I am, and there's so much to explore. And it has given me the map of where this all might lead to, right? So the thesis of the levels of consciousness is that the human nature isn't static. There's always an evolution going on, except for if we block ourselves, right? By staying with the same worldviews, by staying in the same environments, by keeping the same values. But this can also be we oftentimes come to a point of tension, of intensity, where these points of intention or intensity are called bifurcation. It's when a system gets a lot of energy from the outside, and then it needs to kind of either regress or evolve in order to get rid of that energy. We can see that in the world, where we are seeing a lot of complexity through AI, through immigration, through, a more globalized world coming towards countries. And then some people find solutions through directing that energy into like an upward transcending spiral. They find solutions that include broader, wider, more complex perspectives. And then we find a lot of people, actually the majority probably, now in the Western developed countries, who want to regress, who want more authority, stricter laws, who want to divide themselves from like this global perspective. So be like a nation within themselves without having too much contact, right? There's like political streams that are against the EU, for example, that are against all of the economical contracts that we have in the West, because they think we need to apply more laws in order to stabilize the country, right? So this is a regression in complexity because we want to make the world less complex than it is. But also this energy can sometimes move towards transcending, transforming, and opening the view so that we all of a sudden have broader perspectives. So maybe in your life, you've probably been at some points where there was a lot of tension on your system, where you felt a lot of stress. And then all of a sudden it opened up and you came to this new state of being or this new state of evolution where it all made sense. And then there were maybe times in your life where you also regressed and you were looking for easier answers, less complex answers. So that's what we're talking about. And I'm a huge fan of transformation, obviously. And I hope you are too, because then we have so many more opportunities to experience so much more in this lifetime. And we are also finding answers to the problems and not going back, regressing, and then we come to the same problems again and we have another chance to either transform or regress. Does that make sense? Awesome. The second thesis is when such a level of consciousness is activated, like a new level of consciousness, then our whole worldview, our values, our rules of life change completely, right? So when we tap into a new level of consciousness, then our whole worldview, everything how we see life changes completely. And what's important for you at work, what's important for you spiritually, what's important for you in terms of your relationship changes completely. And we have to think about these as really open-ended. Like the levels that we go through are open-ended. And the only thing that's happening is that it gets more complex. So we can hold more perspective and more complexity in thinking. All right. And please bear with me, even though you might not fully, maybe you fully go along, maybe you might not, but just let that be. And you don't have to understand everything fully. It will open up and it will all come together for you at some point, right? In this video. So this is important. And oftentimes in the spiritual scene, especially, we see a lot of people that think like, I'm awake, or I'm conscious, or I'm more conscious than the other, or I'm healed. But what the theory of the levels of consciousness, which is actually also called spiral dynamics, suggests, I mean, there's different theories of levels of consciousness and how consciousness develops, but I'm referring to spiral dynamics right now, is that there's no way that we are fully awake, right? It's an open-ended spiral that gets always more complex and where we can always progress on the ladder, so to say. So let's really start with the basics, like where does the integral theory and also the levels of consciousness come from? There was a sociologist named Dr. Clare Graves, and in his work in the 50s and 60s, he was really thinking about like what makes people happy, like really basic questions of life, very simple but not easy questions in our life. And he sent out students to collect data from not only one region, but from multiple countries, peoples, cultures all over the world. And what he found is that people from different backgrounds were thinking about the same topic similarly. So what it meant to be happy for people from, China, from the US, from Africa, in certain groups was the same thing. And then also there were people that were kind of similar by circumstance of life, by the country they lived in, by what job they had. But they completely had like completely different ways of viewing the world. And then what he also found is that, for example, the same topic, like for example, why do you want peace? Or what does peace mean to you? Or are you for or against abortion? The people that were for that or that wanted to bring peace to the world had a different way of argumenting this. So they had different arguments for the peace, right? They wanted the same, but they had different arguments, same as abortion, right? They had different arguments for why they were for abortion or against abortion back then. So what he found is that there are different levels of consciousness of human beings that we operate from as human beings. And because we operate from these different levels of consciousness, and as we said, evolution is not static, but it's constantly evolving, we might find ourselves in a place of what's next, or the things, the values, everything that I have really cherished a few years ago are not relevant anymore right now. For example, I work a lot with exited founders in transition out of their company. And their question is like, having created this company, and why does exiting feel so hard for me? And why is my role tied to that so much? And now there's oftentimes this tension between that's the old role, that's the old company, that's the old way of being. And I can relate to that from my own life. When I left my companies, my first two, my being was tied to that. But inside of myself, I knew that I already had different values, that there was something different waiting, but it was so hard for me to let go, right? But this is the evolution to the next meme. Oftentimes, or to the next level of consciousness, we come to memes in a second, but to the next level of consciousness, which you really have to embrace and then let go of the old things that are not serving us anymore and really arrive at that new center, right? Really arrive in this new complexity. And this sometimes creates tension. As I said in the beginning, right, there might be this point of bifurcation where there's a lot of energy coming in, and a lot of people can live in homeostasis, which is a place where everything's kind of like good, like our mind is good. We don't have new worldviews that we have to implement. It's just like we're just kind of like grooving, right? It's very easeful. But oftentimes there's tension in our lives, and that's when the energy comes in, and we can either transform or regress. And that has to do a lot with the memes. So memes are like genes. It's like genes internally. Memes are genes of society, ways of thinking, not what people talk about, but how and why they talk about. So it's like an idea, a behavior, a style that spreads by means of imitation from one person to the other. And these memes kind of have their own intelligence. Memes of Christianity, for example, like values of Christianity spread over the whole world, right? Like the teachings of Jesus or of Buddha or of the Islam are spreading. And this is like kind of like the memes, right? It's like it's not a physical, but it's like a mental gene that spreads. Does that make sense? Because this is so important to understand that in the different levels of consciousness, we also have different memes that we connect to throughout our life and then also collectively. A meme acts as a unit for cultural ideas, for thoughts, for symbols, for practices. So maybe in your elementary school, you were in different kind of groups, right? The mouse group and the tiger group, for example. And you're related to that mouse and tiger group in a way. But now you don't do that anymore. Like this seems very far away, right? But you probably still remember that. So these memes, we don't fully get rid of them, but we just don't connect to them anymore in a way. We always have a center of attention, like a center of the meme where we are. You might know memes, as I said, from school, from university. There's a certain codex, how people speak to each other as students, at university students. And there's a different way that you speak when you're in the first years of your university, of your college, or when you're actually graduating. There's different ways that you talk. These are all memes. And we can also see memes fighting in the world right now. Worldviews fighting between, for example, Russia, America, the European Union, China. It's all different value systems that are kind of like fighting against each other. It's also the individuals, but it's more than that. It's like a value system that these different states have, and that is like kind of like fighting for its way to be in the world, right? So it's really about survival. It's about evolution. And these memes are the carrier of the information, of the complexity of thinking in evolution. And then oftentimes you might feel stuck because you're still operating from that old meme, and there's already new things docking on. So for example, if you meet an old friend and they want to talk about other people in a negative way, and they just want to get rid of all their anger and frustration about this person, and they're really dragging them through the mud. But you're already in a state of like, I shouldn't talk badly about other person because I don't actually know the whole situation. I don't have the other person's view. And then either this meme can connect with you, like the other person, like the meme of frustration, of greed, of jealousy can connect with you and drag you into their kind of sense, into their worldview. Or you're already so centered in your new meme, where maybe this person was in your life before, but now not anymore that much. Now you're so centered in your new meme that you actually reject this meme, and this person goes to another person and has to, talk and gossip with them, right? In order to feed their meme. Or actually your meme is so strong that it takes over the other one, and the other one realizes, if the other person is open to that as well, if it's in an open state, okay, maybe gossiping, maybe talking badly about other people is not something that is very pleasant to do, right? It doesn't really elevate me into my best self. So if they are open, then all of a sudden the conversation goes to the next level of complexity. So where did these memes come from? And I want to talk now about the spiral dynamics. And the spiral dynamics is the model that, as I said before, Graves kind of developed from his findings, that we all operate from different levels of consciousness. And the spiral dynamics are really the levels that are inherent in all cultures, groups, societies across the board through the world. Every culture, every society has these inherent levels that they go through collectively, but also these levels of consciousness are also individually. So the further that one society has gone through these complexities, and the further it has gone up the ladder, so to say, the easier it is for a newborn individual to go to that point where the society is at and then carve out and evolve further. That's when things might get really lonely. So when you evolve a lot in your life, you have a very complex thinking, then all of a sudden, the people that you relate to, the people that you really want to spend time with, they get very rare because society operates from a center, and then most of the people are drawn to that center. And if there's individuals who evolve further, then you have to like kind of regroup and find new networks and things like that. What's also important to say is that there's no better or worse. So more complex, higher up the ladder doesn't mean it's better. It just means that the meme and the level of consciousness can hold more perspectives. So we come to the world, we have, for example, first person perspective. We can only see ourselves, right, in the world. Like babies are just like, well, first there's 0% perspective. It's like, what the fuck is this? But then it's like, it's only me. Like they cannot differentiate between me and you. Like if babies want something, they don't consider that you might also want that, or that their sibling maybe want that as well, or that they even have a sibling. So this is first person perspective. And then second person perspective comes online. And this baby all of a sudden realizes, hey, there's another person. So if I grab this might be theirs. And if I give that to them, okay, I lose that, right? They have it. So it's like me and you. And then throughout our lives, we have this third person perspective. So when we come into our teenage years, or even a little bit earlier, oftentimes we realize, okay, there's me, there's you, and there's an objective truth that kind of connects both of us, but that's also like fairness, right? There's a lot of the world, like law system, but also economic business partnerships are formed in that way, because it's always like there's me, there's you, and there's an objective observer, an objective perspective that kind of holds the truth between us, so to say. So it makes people they might not embody the moral and ethics, but they might play by the rules, so to say, right? And then when really moral and ethics come online is when we create fourth person perspective. And this happens later in life, in our adult stage, maybe 30s, 40s, where it's about really seeing that we're part of a bigger kind of scheme, that we're connected. If I take an action, it influences the course of other people's lives, or also nature itself. When all of a sudden we think about, okay, animal rights, we think about sustainability and all of these things. That's fourth person perspective. And then fifth person perspective is really about, we are the whole personality, our traits, everything that we are is a construct. And when we evolve through these stages, we gather many of these different traits. Like in third person perspective, for example, it's really important to have like kind of law and order, right? And in fourth person perspective, it's really about, okay, how can I connect? I have to learn feeling. I have to learn empathy, all of that. So in fifth person perspective, we realize, all of these different traits that we developed over the different stages, over the different levels, I can actually tap into different ones of them. I can be a different person, but I'm choosing to be totally integral and in integrity in myself by choosing what is right in the moment. So I don't have a business personality anymore and a personality at home in my family. I'm one being that is super flexible in their way. Does that make sense? So like where all of a sudden there's not so much duality anymore in life. That's fifth person perspective. And construct awareness is what it's called. And then we have 6 and 7 and 8, and this gets like more complex. So these are the kind of developmental stages in a way of perspective taking. But then there's also, and that's what the memes really connect to, there's these colors in spiral dynamics. And I want to just present that theory of spiral dynamics to you that Graves had studied, which relates to the perspective taking, but is its own kind of model of thinking about this. And it really started about 100,000 years ago when humanity was in its own infancy, right? As a collective, but also newborn babies go through this stage. So it's always the collective and the individual go through these stages. And these memes always go from I focused to we focused. So kind of like, it's like a pendulum. It's like more on the individualistic side, and then more on the we side, and more on the individualistic side, more on the we side, more on the individualistic, more on the we. And this beige is really about instinctive behaviors. So like the rawness of nature, being one with nature, living with the thunder and the rain and in the desert, and being that hunter kind of personality. You can feel the rawness of it. And what's really important there is that we can integrate that into our life nowadays by eating nutritious food, by being able to discern our instincts from thoughts, from ideas and all of that. And by really reconnecting with nature. A lot of people are rediscovering that beige level of consciousness, the beige meme, like memes that connect to beige. Really, honesty, truth is is also can be quite beige, right? And then after like around 50,000 years ago, the purple meme developed, which is the magical meme, where all of a sudden we would come together in bigger tribes, right? Where like there wasn't only groups of people or families, but really tribes that supported each other. So safety was really important there, like a value. Every one of these memes has their own value system and has their own ways of, as I say, how and why do we see the world as we see it? How do we see it? Why do we see it? Not what. The tree is always a tree. But in beige, it might be so I can take shelter underneath it, right? And then in purple, there might be a magical perspective to it, that it's the protector of the land or whatever, right? So purple is really about the magical aspect, the aspect where we all of a sudden see archetypes, where religion, the first tribal religions, pagan religions are formed, where it's really about explaining the world through mystical experiences. Shamanism comes from that purple stage, the tribal stage, okay? You can see that. And then about 10 to 20,000 years ago, the red meme developed. And this was because the tribal, right, was very focused on the group. So the individual was kind of lost. It's kind of like with babies, they're all of a sudden, like they come from beige, they're very instinctive, right? They're very me focused. And then they realize that other people, then they get integrated into the family system. And then there's this first wave of the ego where it's like, but I want this, right? And this is red. Like red is very like physical power and egoic power. And this is my life. And I want to grab it, but not in a way of I achieve more. This comes later, but it's more of a way of I'm stronger. I'm the strongest. I am the chief. I'm a chieftain here of the tribe. I'm the strongest, right? Like I want this land because it has a lot of resources. So I go there and I grab it from the other person. I fight them. I shoot them. I kill them, right? It's like this intensity. And in our world today, this meme or these memes, this level of consciousness is sometimes in our world today, this level of consciousness is sometimes viewed as toxic. So this is where like also toxic masculinity is rooted. And yes, there are toxic sides to that, right? If I just grab things that I want to be mine and I don't care about other people's opinions, needs, whatever. But it has also a very strong and very healthy side of it if we develop it in a healthy way, because it lets us set boundaries. Like, no, I don't want this here. I don't want your stuff, right? No, this is my life. I take care of myself. And it's also a healthy self that develops, that can be proud, that is standing for something in life, right? A really important prerequisite for the next stage, which is then ultimately blue. And blue derived from like tribes, fighting, all of that. All of a sudden, bigger cities came together and you couldn't just like solve every problem through physical violence. So blue had to develop, and blue is really about law and order. It's about hierarchy. It's really about what I said as a prerequisite, in red is like develop a self so I can stand for something. So blue is about purpose, like the church is very blue, or all the religions are very blue. Actually, the ideas come from way evolved stages, but how they are manifested in the religions, in the religious traditions like Christianity, Islam, and so on, Hinduism, is very blue, because it's law and order, it's hierarchy. So because I'm longer in the game as a teacher, as a pastor or whatever, I get more money, I go higher in the rank, this kind of stuff. It's structure, right? Like blue is structure. And obviously very unhealthy manifestations of that were in the Third Reich, where it's a combination of red and blue and already orange, because there's a lot of engineering, but also the Ku Klux Klan, for example, is like, okay, we have this higher kind of thinking, we stand for something, but it's not based in morality or in the connection to all beings. No, it's just like, because I'm part of this group and I believe in this God, and this God gives me the power, I justify my actions, right? I justify the slaughter of millions of people in the for the church, right? That thousands of years ago when they went to the Middle East, the missionaries, right? The Ku Klux Klan. It's like for a higher order, I justify my actions, and it is also, on the other hand, needed, right? This kind of sense of law and order in order to live together in a harmonious way. So that's the healthy manifestation of blue. And then out of blue, obviously, because this is, again, a we-centered focus. So as you see, the individual kind of gets lost for like a higher order theme, or for a belief that I have. Again, a very individualistic meme and level of consciousness derives, which is orange. And orange is really about performance. Orange is about science. Orange is about achievement. Orange is about the startup culture, Wall Street. A lot of the Western society is based on a combination of blue, orange, and green, which we will go into, which is more like the sustainable connection to nature, a planetary regeneration kind of thinking. But orange is really what developed, and blue actually developed around 5,000 years ago. I forgot to say that. And during the time when, the first cities were developed. And then orange developed a few hundred years ago, right? When there was enough of the church and the people were like, I want to be my own boss, right? I want to be my own boss. And all of the thoughts around individualism and the time of enlightenment came a few hundred years ago. That's when orange developed. And it was like, I want to explain the world. And if I achieve more, then I'm better, right? If I am smarter, I can make more money. All of these things. And it's in its way also, again, there's a lot of, shadow side to that unhealthy manifestation, which is like this complete disconnection from the personal relationship to something, right? It's like human resource. It's not a person, it's a human resource that works in a company. So only the output of this person counts, but all of a sudden we completely lose the individual being itself. Only their output performance is measured. So that's a huge unhealthy side of that, obviously. And what we do with nature and all the destruction that is happening in a way that is way bigger than, for example, blue or red can destruct, because it's more complex, because it's like a bigger meme. It's a more evolved meme. Orange can create so much more destruction, right? With values that are unaligned with life, with nature itself. And orange has a huge part obviously in the meta crisis that is happening right now through like technologies, through everything going faster and faster. That's all a result of the orange meme. And then out of the orange, obviously, because of the unhealthy manifestations, there were also healthy manifestations. Obviously, all the technology that we have, all the luxuries that we have in our lives, most of them come from the orange meme, the scientific understanding, scientific ideas, right? Relativity theory, all of that comes from an orange. And what's really needed is today like a grounded orange again, like the relativity theory from Albert Einstein or other scientific breakthroughs were not this orange that needs more and more and more, but it's more like a grounded. It's like, hey, I want to use my mind in order to bring humanity forward. That would be like a grounded orange. I want to create technology that really serves the people. Like an AI that does good for the planet, but not, I have an idea, I have to program this AI so I get rich. No, it's like this orange of, I'm curious, and where's my place in the world from a mind perspective, right? Do you see that? So out of the shadow side of orange, again, destroying the world, the green meme evolved about like 50 years ago with this high time, with the hippie movement and the equality of genders and all of it. Those were all memes of the green level of consciousness. And we are seeing a lot of that really flourishing nowadays in the European states, in spiritual communities and all of that. And it's really the answer, the we answer to the orange eye is like, hey, we have to collectively, again, regenerate the planet and all of these things. And this is really green perspective. The hippie movement, as I said, spiritual communities, the meditation that's coming over from the East is also adapted by the green meme. And I say that because meditation is also, again, like a thing of, like all of the memes can meditate, to just think about it differently. And then what we're seeing with green is it's really important because it reconnects the people with their own body and also with nature, right? So we're seeing, okay, I'm understanding my health. I'm doing trauma therapy in order to heal my trauma so they don't operate from that stressed and cortisol driven way of being. I'm reconnecting to nature in a more advanced way than only the kind of magical tribal, which is super important, by the way. The purple is super important to integrate because it makes everything, every stage when we have this purple inside of us, it makes everything sacred. It makes everything like just adds depth to life. But green connects from a different angle, from this angle of, okay, now we've kind of like destroyed everything. We have to preserve it. Regeneration. All of that is the idea of green. And there's also a lot of shadow sides though. So green really thinks that it's the way that the world should work. So it can be quite arrogant. It can be also denying of the own faults and mistakes, right? So a person that thinks of themselves as awake or conscious will not really want to admit that there's also bad parts about them, So this is really predominant in green, or the unhealthy side of green. And where this now all comes together is that these are all lower tier developmental stages. And what we're needing in this world is a shift to the next level. And as I said, the spiral is open upwards, like so far. And the next step after green is really the integral state. And the integral state is the first state that understands that I am embodying all of these. Like I have green parts, I have orange parts, I have blue parts, I have red parts. And I'm not like, because the stages before up to green think that the other stages kind of suck. That's a fight we're seeing in the world. Blue, orange, and green. The old law and order, the neo-modernism, kind of this startup culture, Wall Street, stock market, all of this, and the green that is like, regeneration, sustainability, all of it. They cannot shake hands. They cannot align in their way of thinking. And that's why there's so much tension in the world now, because these world views fight against each other, and it's kind of, they take hold of people completely, right? You completely evolved in that meme. When I left my companies, which was deeply orange, I was like for success and for money and everything and greed and all of that. Then I left and I found this like meditation and these spiritual communities. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, like we don't need money. Like why? Money's bad and all of these things, right? But no, we need all of them. And this is what the integral meme understands. Seeing that everything is part of us and that we just have a center depending on the situation. And the integral can combine that. And the integral is again an I-focused meme. So there's obviously also unhealthy shadow sides, but this is the first stage that really understands that we're this holistic view of being, right? Where we're developing over time and we're broadening the horizon. And then all of a sudden it sees that, hey, sometimes I have to be read or to set my boundaries. I need structure. I also want to perform, like I want to bring cool stuff in the world, but not for the detriment of my own body or the health of others, right? This is what integral understands. combining all of this. So for integral, a lot of times systems thinking comes online, like shaping the world in a way that is holistic, that is where we integrate the worldviews of different people and create new systems that are really sustainable and regenerative and that integrate all of the other stages. The shadow side, though, of integral is that it can be quite cold and that it can be quite kind of like unapologetic, like really like arrogant. This is like, I understood it. Like, I know where this is going. I know what we need, and kind of just goes along. I mean, I would, well, depending on the view of the world, right? But rather unhealthy manifestations can be like Elon Musk, right? For example, he's doing a lot of good stuff in terms of technology, but for the detriment of humanity sometimes, right? Or other integral beings that are where the heart is not really fully online, where they're not really embodied. And this is what happens in the turquoise state. And this is the last that I'm going to talk about, stage or level of consciousness, because it's the one where we all of a sudden create this guardian consciousness that I was talking about in the beginning, like a guardian consciousness where we're like, hey, I am a being that is mind, heart, and soul. I integrate all of that, right? I have systems thinking, but it's really about how can we drive humanity forward on a planetary level? How can we integrate not only different tribes, countries, but also animals, trees? It's all part of a living ecosystem, right? And how can we bring that forth? How can we create peace on this planet, not only for myself, but for everybody? Thinking in terms of multi-generations, like 7 generations. All of that comes online in turquoise. This intense connection to also a heart of the bodhisattva. So like a being that holds about 10,000 of perspective onto one topic, and they can integrate them all into this big energetic field. And this is what comes online when it's in turquoise. And this is really the evolution of consciousness and of human beings, of the collective. And I hope that you get inspired to just move on the ladder and to just go on and flourish for yourself and for others, because it's so important to progress on the ladder and to integrate and to really have that drive to go towards integral and then turquoise, and to integrate all of the practices that you need. And drop me a DM if you're like, this was really inspiring. I don't know how to progress. I can give you some more material that will help you deepen that, because it's such an important thing that you show up as a role model, as a leader that integrates all of that and is not contributing to the conflict and tension that is already out there. And for this, we really need all the aspects of the integral being. So if you like this video, leave a comment. What you like particularly about it? What you're taking away? What's your biggest learning in this video? Also share it with people that you think might profit from it, where you're like, wow, this was so inspiring. Then please share it with some friends. Please share it with people who might like that and who you want to uplift, because this is what ultimately turquoise is also about. It's like uplifting each other, seeing each other in the highest version, in the highest vision. And then leave me a like. Also subscribe to the channel for more amazing information and videos like this. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. This is it from my side. I'm so grateful that you were here today, that you watched this video today. And I'm sending you much, much, much love and all the best. Bye-bye.